All right. So today we're going to talk about behavior change. Remember back in the day, we talked about behaviorists, right? And they were not interested in what people were thinking. They were interested in what could be observed by other people. If I see somebody hitting somebody, then I'm like, that looks like violence. And I know what violence looks like, but I don't know what a violent thought would look like. So behavior change, based in this book, Atomic Habits. This is a good book to have on your shelf. It's a nice one. It's full of a lot of, as you'll see right now, there's a lot of sections. It's written like a lot like a textbook. It's not just long sections of text. There's a lot of point by point stuff that's real easy to read because, you know, he's studying behavior change. And so the book really reads itself to you. It's very easy to read. And there's a lot of nice graphics that I've lifted from these chapters, and I'll show you right now. But the science that it's based on started with the behaviorists and has moved on until now. Another person I should mention who James Clear takes a lot of really brilliant insights from is a Stanford professor named B.J. Fogg. I think it's B.J.F.O.G.G. And he was writing a habits book that came out just after Atomic Habits. It's called Tiny Habits. And that one's really excellent. I've heard B.J. Fogg interviewed. Everything he says is really on point. And he's, you know, just a brilliant guy. He's got a house in Hawaii. Like he's become very successful by applying these habits. And like he has one car that's only for driving to the beach to go surfing every single morning. And that car gets all sandy. So he's like, oh, I'm just going to use one car just for driving to the beach to go surfing every day. Like, what an amazing life. And the guy built that life by using these habits. And if you read James Clear, his story is pretty similar. Like he ended up getting injured, and he had to, when he was young, like in high school, and he had to really rebuild his life from the ground up. And it got him thinking about atomic habits. Like the thesis of the book is that they're tiny, they're small because atoms are small, but if you use them correctly, you can unleash great power, right? Not just bombs, but power plants. So it's the idea that these tiny little moments have amazing power if you know how to use it like a science. So this should be a really nice lecture, and maybe you can use it to become a scientist about your life and change your life and use psychology to just basically build the life that you want to build. That's my goal with this. Okay, so here we go. The first thing he does is go back to behaviorism and the study of how we know that habits are built. And there's not a lot of questions about this. So that the process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve it. And there's nice, long explanation of all of these things. So the cue basically means there's a thing that happens in your day that makes you want to do the behavior. There's a craving, and that's the actual feeling of wanting to do it. The response would be like doing the behavior, and then the reward is like the good feeling that you get from it. And he breaks this down into a few things, but one of them would be like smoking. Like if you walk out of class and you walk into that little stairway in the engineering building where smoking happens, that's the cue because you're in a place where you can smoke. It makes you crave a cigarette. Response, you pull one out, and then the reward is the chemicals that you get for, you know, doing the behavior just physically, and also the chemicals that you get from, you know, taking the drug in. And as you'll see in the graphics, this happens with every habit. It's pretty scientific. And this basically creates a feedback system because the cue worked. Guys working on my house. The cue worked. So the cue works. You feel the craving, you respond to the craving, you get rewarded for it. So the next time that cue comes up, you expect the reward. The cue is going to lead to the reward. You're going to feel the craving. You're going to do the behavior. You're going to do the reward, right? So this is bad habits, good habits. They're the same. They follow the same pattern, okay? So here's figure 6. The 4 stages of habit are best described as a feedback loop. They form an endless cycle that is running every moment that you're alive. This habit loop is continually scanning the environment, predicting what will happen next, trying out different responses, and learning from the results. If you remember from Thinking Fast and Slow, we have deep analytical thinking where we're thinking a lot about something, and then we have the fast system, and the fast system is making a decision for us right now. I feel like a bug bit my head, so my hand just goes up and does that, right? And I don't know if the bug really did bite my head, but the behavior right here is the response, and then the reward is the feeling of satisfaction from scratching, right? Okay. So you basically can break it into 2 halves where the cue and the craving are when you're feeling the problem. And then the response and the reward are when you're doing a behavior that's going to create satisfaction and solve the problem. So that's one way of putting it. So he gives you a few examples in the book. I encourage you to read these chapters. They're good. So the cue, your phone buzzes when you get a text message. Bing! Craving, you want to learn about the contents of the message or notification. Is it some likes? Is it a real powerful like? Was it somebody who you liked your photo, your cute selfie? Ooh, this could be good. So you grab your phone, you read the text, and you satisfy your craving to read the message. So grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing. So this is what happens when you hear the zzz. You attend to it. You immediately think about it, and then you go and you grab it. And this probably happens without any thinking. The higher mind is not working on this. And as we'll see, the higher mind shouldn't be thinking about everything all the time because it's just too much. We need habits. So if we're going to have these habits, because everyone has them, everybody must have them. If we're going to have them, we should build good ones on purpose. All right. So you're answering emails, you begin to feel stressed and overwhelmed by work, you want to feel in control, you bite your nails, you satisfy your craving to reduce stress, biting your nails becomes associated with answering email, right? So this is not something that I understand because I don't bite my nails, but some people bite their nails and they don't like it. There's a famous guy who has this problem. What's his name? Shane Parrish from the Knowledge Project. So I think he was writing it just to Shane. But you're answering emails, you begin to feel stressed out, and then you respond to that stress by having a solution to the stress. So if you have any kind of habit of just like drumming on the desk or doing something that you want to stop doing, like snapping your fingers, I don't know what it would be, but this would be some kind of like a physical thing. One would be like posture. You know, a lot of people, I know if I sit at a desk for a long time, I end up just looking like Gollum after a little while, like, the process of smokers, yes, I told you the habits is what tricks you, yes. You know, so like you all hunched over and everything, and normally I associate answering my emails with being Gollum, but instead you should, sit back up, tuck your stuff in. This is my zip code. It's like the only zip code that did not vote for Donald Trump in the election in Ohio. They just called Ohio for Donald Trump. Oh. Okay. So he's probably going to be the president again. It looks pretty bleak. So here we go. Here's 2. This is me all day here. You wake up, you want to feel alert, so you drink a cup of coffee. You satisfy your craving to feel alert. Drinking coffee becomes associated with waking up. So every morning, go get coffee. That's my first, problem that I have to solve is I'm tired, I feel like crap, and I need a cup of coffee, So this is the first thing that I do during the day. And it should be something like Artist Way morning pages. It should be like some kind of a creative exercise. It should be yoga. It should be something good. But instead it's like, oh, I want to go buy this drug, right? Here's another one. You smell a donut shop as you walk down the street near your office. You begin to crave a donut. You buy a donut and eat it. Okay, get out of my face, you stupid thing. Association of you're craving to eat a donut, so buying a donut becomes associated with walking down the street near your office. You always stop there because when you walk down there, you know you're going to stop there. You know you're going to get a donut. You know you're going to eat it. You know, so a lot of people have a hard time with eating junk food in general, and the idea is not to force yourself to resist the junk food all the time. Instead, what you want to do is get the junk food out of your life. Like, keep it out of your life. And if you can do that, then you can be free of it, basically. Okay. So you hit a stumbling block at work, you feel stuck and you want to relieve your frustration. So you pull out your phone and check social media. You satisfy a craving to feel relieved. Social media becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. This is a bad thing for people who work on computers, okay? If I'm working on my materials for you, I'm preparing these lecture materials, I'm cutting out these pictures and everything, and then I hit some kind of a problem, and I don't know how to import this file into this program or something like that, and I'm annoyed, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on with the election. So I open Twitter, and then I start reading Twitter, right? I'm taking a break from my work, but while I'm working, I'm sitting here like Gollum, and then I have a problem. And instead of fighting through the problem, I'm tired and I'm like, okay, I want to see what's going on with the election. So I open Twitter and I'm still sitting here like Gollum, right? Instead, I should take a break, go grab my guitar and play guitar. Like, take a real break, you know? Or I should go up against the wall and like stand on my head, let the blood flow to my head. Or I should just run around screaming in a circle for a little while so I can feel like a human body living in the world. I should do something other than sit and stare at my computer, because this is where I'm working, right? I'm stuck here anyway. If I take my break here, maybe my mind is getting a break because my mind doesn't have to work anymore. It can just receive stuff, but my body's in the same position. My chemical situation is the same. I'm just sitting stressed out, staring at a screen. So what I should do when I'm taking a break is get the hell off the computer for a minute, because I work on the computer. Now, it's a different story. If you're working in a kitchen, you have like a business making food. You're making food all the time, and you're tired from that. You want to sit down and stare at a screen. That's a break, you know? Or if you're at the books all the time, well, that's still sitting down. Screen time is not the right break most of the time, right? Okay, so let's keep moving. Here's the easy one. Problem phrase. You walk into a dark room. You want to be able to see. You flip on the light switch. You satisfy your craving to see. Turning on the light switch becomes associated with wanting to see, right? Or walking into a dark room. The moment you walk into a dark room, you turn on the light. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it just shows you how automatic it is. You flip the switch without thinking about it. So many of us pull our phones out without thinking about it. Many of us open an app that doesn't do anything for us when we could be opening an app that does do something for us, like that Magoosh vocabulary builder, or there's math games. Like, you could be playing math games. You could be getting your arithmetic brain tight for your engineering superpowers, right? Could be doing a lot of stuff, but normally we do dumb stuff because it's easy, and we're gonna find out why now. Okay, so there are chapters in the book. There's a whole chapter dedicated to the first law, the second law, the third law, the fourth law. This is his thesis of how to create a good habit. And he says that they map on to the 4 stages of how a habit is naturally built. So you are building a habit the way that a human brain builds habits, right? This is brain science here. So, first law, make it obvious. Second law, make it attractive. Third law, make it easy. And fourth law, make it satisfying, right? So, first law of the cue, make it obvious. What does that mean? Well, what if your goal is to become a musician? You want to be somebody who has the ability to play music, and you want to get good at it, right? Well, should you leave your guitar put away in some case in the closet, Or should your guitar be sitting out all the time so that it's right there and all you have to do is pick it up and it's there, right? If you have a bunch of effects and stuff plugged in, you have a bunch of studio gear, you have a keyboard and all this other stuff, plug it all in so it's all ready to go somewhere. Make a space for this stuff to happen. If you want to be exercising, like I usually have a yoga mat right next to me because it's if you have it out sitting there, you can grab it and just get down on that yoga mat immediately, right? If you want to be studying, when you get home, grab your books, put them on the desk, put the other stuff out of there and just make it so it's like, here's the desk, here's the place I'm going to sit down and work. And it's the obvious place where you're going to make that happen. So that means when you walk into the room, you can see the cue. I'm supposed to be doing this now, right? Second law, craving, right? You make it attractive. Make it something that you're going to crave, right? So a lot of ways to do this would be, you, like I said, you set up your workspace so that it's a happy place to be. If you always have to work at a desk that's like facing a wall and not happy and everything, maybe you can rearrange your room so that your desk has a window near it, or like you have whatever you need to make your habits happen. If you want to be somebody who exercises, you should go exercise somewhere that already makes you happy. And they're full chapters about this, and I encourage you to read them. You have the PDF. There's an audio book there, and this book is everywhere. It's a very famous book right now, New York Times bestseller. And it'll go through a lot of different ways to do it. There's one thing he talks about called habit stacking. And one of the things that you can do is you're like, okay, I already have this habit of buying, I always buy whatever, Rilakkuma stickers or something. I always buy something that makes you happy, whatever it is. So you go join a gym near one of those places, and every time you go work out, you go and you stack another reward on top of it. Response, make it easy, right? You want to make it so that when you actually get the desire to do it, it's easy to do. And a lot of this involves setting up your environment. Like right now I have my microphone plugged in. I got my mic stand sitting near here. I have my computer sitting up on a big fat stack of books, so it's up nice and high. I have an external keyboard. These are cheap, and a mouse plugged in, so it feels good for me to be working. I have my lights in the right place. I'm sitting in a good office. I'm in a good spot for getting my work done. And that's like my jam, is getting the work done all the time. So in the end, you got to make it satisfying somehow. And one of the things that you can do is reward yourself for the things that you do. If you like eating chocolate or something, every time you do something nice, you feed yourself some chocolate. And as dumb as that sounds, it really does work. And there's BJ Fogg talks about this in his interview with Shane Parrish. He talks about how in the Tiny Habits program, which is different from this, but BJ Fogg, I haven't read his book yet, but I'm thinking that he might be even better than this book. But because he's Stanford, man. Stanford's amazing. He talks about celebration, where when you do whatever this habit is, you like celebrate. Like you have some kind of celebration that you've done something good. Like say you want to exercise, when you get done exercising, you do some kind of like a happy dance, like, oh man, or like you get done studying and you're like, oh, I just studied, today I have the day off. I wanted to study in four 30-minute sessions throughout the day because I learned about learning in psychology class. So I've been doing, my normal stuff during the day, but I keep stepping aside to do these 30-minute sessions of studying, and I've done 4 of them today. I'm awesome. You have to like celebrate yourself and be like, I just did the right thing today. Oh man, I'm so awesome. And he's saying that like, this is BJ Fogg, but the research shows that if you do that kind of thing, if you celebrate your good habits, like, hell yeah, I'm awesome, and you get this kind of like good vibe going on about when you do things that are good for you, you get, you're more likely to do it because this reward process is happening in a way that's really powerful. So by all means, you can stack a reward on top of it. This is like getting a gold star on your test, but you have to do that to yourself now because you're an adult. Find a way to celebrate when you do things that are good for yourself. Okay. So how do you break a bad habit? You just take these laws and you invert them. The first law says make it attractive, right? Make it obvious, put it out, right? But if you don't want to be messing around on Instagram or something, you just delete Instagram from your phone. It's not there anymore. If you make something unattractive, then it's harder to do. And the funny thing is, like, I talk a lot about social media. This guy, when he was writing this book, he kicked himself off of social media because social media is such a negative, almost 100% negative force in people's lives. But he had an assistant, and he would have his assistant change all of his passwords to social media so that he could not get in there. So it's not that he had to be like, I'm going to quit social media on purpose. And he's got, Instagram and whatever on his phone that he can open at any time. Like, he's like, no, I want to make it so that I can't even get in there, right? So make it invisible. Get it so you can't even see it. Make it unattractive. And there are ways that he goes through to do this. Some of the ones that they'll do is you try to it depends on what you're what habit you're trying to break. Like, if it would be something like social media, you gotta kind of start changing your attitude towards it. Like, I'm always talking a bunch of bad stuff about Zuckerberg, and it makes it so I don't feel good about scrolling on social media because I talk so much about it, and I'd feel like such a hypocrite if I was scrolling on social media. Make it difficult, that's like taking it away from yourself. And then if you make it unsatisfying, there's different ways of doing this. Like, one example is people who want to quit alcohol will sometimes take this drug that makes alcohol make them sick. So when they will use the alcohol will make them sick. And that works for some people, but the problem is, if you know that you're doing it to yourself, sometimes it doesn't work. That's sometimes. Often you can manipulate your own mind. Often you can do it very effectively. Not as effectively as somebody else can do it, but often it works really well for you. So that's the thing. Maybe you can, in the comments, talk about how to make a behavior change obvious, how to make it attractive, and how to make it easy, and how to make it satisfying. And you can maybe kick around some ideas as to how to do that, and maybe have some examples of what kinds of behavior you want to get into. And we have some of those in the next chapter. So I'm skipping around, right? This is just introducing the first few rules and tying it to behavior science. But I encourage you to read this whole book. And if you don't want to read the whole book, look up James Clear, see him interviewed. He's really good at laying it all out. He tells his story, and he goes through the different laws for positive and for negative. And it's pretty good. Okay. So a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The ultimate purpose of habits is to solve the problems of life with as little energy and effort as possible. Remember, thinking fast and slow? We like easy, cheap processes that don't take a lot of thinking. Any habit can be broken down to a feedback loop that involves 4 steps. Cue, you see it. Craving, you want it. Response, you do it. And reward, what is it? I see it, I like it, I want it, I got it, or something. The Ariana Grande, right? Is that the 9 rings? I see it, I want it, I get it, I like it, I want it. I don't remember what it is, but it's this is some Ariana Grande stuff right here. My boo. The 4 laws of behavior change are the simple set of rules that we can use to build better habits. If you make it obvious, you make the cue just bam, sticking out there. If you make it attractive, you're gonna want it. Like if you want to cook more, you just clean up your kitchen and put out the things in an easy place. You set up your kitchen so that it's really easy to cook. You make it, clean it up real nice so it looks good. You get the tools that you need to make it easy to cook. Maybe you start out by cooking easy things, and we're going to focus on this a little bit more in the next chapter. And then you make it satisfying. Hopefully you cook some good food, and maybe you can have a little tub of ice cream in there so you can eat some ice cream when you're done, to like kind of add a little bit of reward to yourself. Be like, I'm saving money, I'm building the skill of cooking, like, man, I'm great. All right, let's move on to the next chapter. Chapter 13 is called, I gave you chapter 12 for Sankom as well, so we're getting our money's worth out of this book. You should buy it. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Procrastinating means I have to record a lecture for my psychology students, but I am looking around at election data, even though I know that the race is not going to be called for another 7 hours, right? They're good, at least 7 more hours, I hope. Okay, so the 2-minute rule is what? This is interesting. James Clear often tells this story about one of his readers, because he was a blogger first before this. He's a PhD in psychology, and I believe he's an industrial organizational psychologist. Those are the psychologists that get paid the most, and what they basically do is they focus on how to set up organizations and spaces so that workers are already set up to do their job in a way that's really easy for them and really helpful for them. So he's got a PhD in trying to make people more productive, you know? Okay. So in this chapter here, I'll go into this first. He always tells this story about a guy who lost 200, 300 pounds. He was like a real big guy, really big dude. And he couldn't, motivate himself to be healthy. So he decided that he was going to go to the gym for 2 minutes, and then he was going to go home. He wasn't allowed to work out. He wasn't allowed to do anything. He was just going to go to the gym, and that's all. So he practiced building the habit of going to the gym. He'd put on his clothes for going to the gym. Maybe he'd get in the car. Maybe he'd take a BTS. Maybe he would jump in a taxi, whatever. He would go to the gym, and he would get into the gym. He'd look around at the place, kind of walk around there, hang out for a little while, maybe go to the bathroom, maybe touch a machine or two, and then leave, go home. That's it. Next day, do it again. Next day, do it again. Next day, do it again. But not work out at all. Just go to the gym. After a while, he started to build the habit of going to the gym. And after he had already built the habit of going to the gym, he started to improve upon that habit. He started to improve upon it by saying, okay, I'm already here. I might as well get some working out done. And here, I'll just read you this story because it's good. This is another person who's done something really similar. I'll just read it to you. Twyla Tharp is widely regarded as one of the greatest dancers and choreographers of the modern era. In 1992, she was awarded a MacArthur Fellowship, which is often called a Genius Grant, and she has spent the bulk of her career touring the globe to perform her original works. She credits much of her success to simple daily habits. Now, let me tell you, she is a dancer, and anybody, you can really fall in love with dancing. But if you're not going to be some kind of K-pop idol or something, it's hard to imagine how you're ever going to make money dancing. And she is, everybody wants to do this because people who fall in love with it, they really fall in love with it. It's really an amazing art, but there's just no money in it. And she is wickedly successful in this, which is so hard, right? It's almost harder than being a good doctor. So I'll move on. She says, and she says that her habits, her daily habits are what made her a successful artist, which you wouldn't normally think that, right? You think habits come from or artistic power comes from creativity, and creativity just needs to be free. Most people tell you that's not true. So she says, I begin each day of my life with a ritual. She writes, I wake up at 5:30 a.m. I put on my workout clothes, my leg warmers, my sweatshirt, and my hat, and I walk outside of my Manhattan home, hail a taxi, and tell the driver to take me to the Pumping Iron Gym at 91st Street and 1st Avenue, where I work out for 2 hours. The ritual is not the stretching and weight training I put my body through each morning at the gym. The ritual is the cab, the taxi, right? The moment I tell the driver where to go, I have completed the ritual. Completed. It's done, right? It's not the 2 hours of working out that she's going to do. What she needs to do is get her ass to the gym, right? And once her ass is in the gym, she's going to work out, right? That's going to happen. It's a simple act, but by doing it the same way each morning, habitualizes it. It makes it repeatable, easy to do. It reduces the chance that I would skip it or do it differently. It's one more item in my arsenal of routines. An arsenal is like many weapons that you have. So she says that this is a weapon. And it's one less thing to think about. That's thinking fast and slow, right? If you turn these into habits, then you're not running a program that you need to think about. Many billionaires wear the same clothes all the time. And I'm not a billionaire, but you notice that when I get to work here, I don't dress up to come and record my lecture for you. I just put the same jacket on and record my lecture so that I just have to think about psychology. I don't have to think about what clothes I'm going to wear. I'm not a very good fashionable person. So if I just have this near my workstation, just throw this thing on real quick, bam, done, right? It's finished. And it's one less thing that I have to think about while I'm trying to think about behaviorism and cognitive psychology. What have we covered so far? What do you guys already know, right? That's a lot to think about. And I need my whole brain for it. I don't need to be thinking about how cute I'm trying to look. All right. So there it is. There it is, right? This explains things. Researchers estimate that 40 to 50% of our actions in any day are done out of habit. Let me show you how short this chapter is, right? Decisive moments explains it. What's the 2-minute rule? Short little paragraph, burst of really good examples. And then we have a little bit of writing, bam, another graphic. You know, this book just reads itself to you. It's really wonderful. And then here we have some more of these. And these are very satisfying to readers, right? And then bam, that's the end of the chapter. It's a really quick one. So you should definitely read this. It's a very short, very quick, very satisfying chapter. So let's go through the graphics. I'll make them big. So procrastinating means just messing around and not doing your stuff, right? There's a viral video from maybe 8 years ago or something called like Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. That's a really good video. This should give you that. All right, there you go. So I got a lot of stuff open. Maybe that's a bad habit. So, the 2-minute rule, we'll see in a moment here. And he says that any good habit can be condensed into 2-minute rule, into a 2-minute behavior. And once you do that for a little while, you can expand on it. So they talk about pivotal choices. And the reason that these habit people are always talking about the morning is if you wake up early in the morning, bam, that's one. And then you go to the gym and you get a workout on. And then right after that, you go to some healthy restaurant, you pick up some healthy food and you eat that. Like, you have 3 good habits that you've done already. And even if the rest of your day, you do a bunch of dumb stuff, you already worked out, you ate one of your meals at a place that's like, really good, healthy food, and you woke up early, So like, all of these things are good and they stem from a good choice. If you have a bad habit of waking up when the sun is really, really high in the sky already, you're losing a lot of time. It's making you stay up late and making you do a bunch of like stuff that's not helping you out, those choices put you on a different, like, not the loser's bracket. And also, I don't want to say that waking up early in the morning is like the only thing that's good and people who wake up late are bad, because it's not true. It's much easier to get all your stuff done during the day. It really is. And during the night, it's much easier to chill and be sabai. So this is not a perfect map, but if you make some choices early in the day that push you towards a good day, it's really easy to continue having a good day. It's like if you wake up and you hit that workout and you hit this, you do your morning pages, you do all your stuff really early in the morning, it would be really hard to have a bad day, And this is definitely not completely accurate, because you can get in some car accident and that would make your day really horrible, or like a lot of bad things can happen still. But most of the time, most of your days are not going to have some giant point where you win the lottery or some giant catastrophe happens. Most of it is going to be small things that come from your habits. So here he is breaking it down to the 2-minute rule. He says, if I want to read before bed every night, instead of taking this out, because everybody believes that staring at a screen before you go to bed is bad for you. Like nobody thinks like, oh, screen time before bed is the greatest thing, everyone should do it. No one thinks that. So if you want to change that and start reading books before bed, English or Thai, whatever language you want, the way to do that is to get yourself in bed, grab a book, and read one page. It's absolutely great. And if you start doing that, you start reading in bed, you're gonna read more and more and more and more, and you're gonna become a reader. And as much as this is like a teacher thing to say, it's also a millionaire thing. If you ask great leaders of companies if they read books, they all say yes. They all read. You ask multimillionaires, do they read? Yes. Multimillionaires read. They all read. And if you look at their schedules, they're very busy. They're very busy people, but they make the time to read because it's super important. And it just changes your mind. It's like meditation, but it's meditation on a single idea, a singular set of ideas. Normally the mind is wandering, it's everywhere. But if you put your mind inside of a book, it puts it in a place where it is moving towards a goal. And it's grabbing everything in your mind and pulling it into one place to consolidate power and pressure and create these mind diamonds. Reading is amazing. You should definitely do it. It makes you smarter. It makes your life better. If you can do this, it's awesome. Do 30 minutes of yoga. If you can do any exercise that there is in the world, yoga is amazing, right? It's totally amazing. It heals injuries. It chills your mind out. It's an amazing thing to do. And so if you get a yoga mat, right, this is one of those purchases that really helps. You put it in your bedroom, and then when you want to do yoga in the morning, you just wake up in the morning, you pull that yoga mat out, and you pass out on it, Then you wake up an hour later, and then maybe you do 3 stretches, and then whatever, you're done. But the automatic thing that you set up is you bust out that yoga mat in the morning. That's going to be a huge thing. It's going to be a huge thing. Study for class becomes open up my notes. If you open that up, good to go. Fold the laundry, fold just one pair of socks. Run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes. If you put on the right gear, you are on your way to be doing the right thing. I used to, when I was young and just into playing football all the time, I would call the other guys in the neighborhood and be like, hey, we're going to play football. You want to play football? No, man, I'm kind of tired. And I'd be like, dude, do you have your shoes on? And the guy would be like, I know what you're doing. And I'm like, I was a kid, I was doing this. And I'd be like, no, man, I think that if you had your shoes on, you'd probably just think differently. You'd probably think that you want to play football. And slowly but surely, I'd get everybody to come play football, because you can't play football with 3 guys. You need a bunch of guys. So we'd have to call them all up and be like, hey, let's go play football. And so that's what we do. And that's how I do it, is be like, hey, man, do you have your shoes on? And then My boy Jimmy, who lived across the street, by the time he'd have his shoes on, there was no way he's going to say no to football because he'd have to take his shoes back off. He doesn't want to do that. So I'm like, do you have your shoes on? Yeah. Of course you want to come now, right? And it's totally true. You put your running shoes on, you're going to go for a run because you got the right gear on. Okay. So here is talking about like scaling these things up. So if you just put on your running shoes and then you just take a little 10-minute walk just around somewhere that you want to be anyway. You can even like put on your running shoes and just walk around Siam Paragon, like walk around some mall, walk around, somewhere there's going to be a bunch of beautiful people that you can look at and be happy, right? Do that as exercise. Next, you walk 10,000 steps. Make some big route, and you can make it, like I said, make it attractive. You just go to one of these giant malls, suck up their air conditioning, and use their bathroom a couple times. Like, do that, Hard, run a 5K. That's tough, right? And then very hard would be run a marathon. But you can run a marathon, and the first step to that is putting on your running shoes. You can scale up to this real fast. Write one sentence. Right? You want to be a writer? Write one sentence. And I have produced a lot of content in my life, but for the past little while since I have this baby, and I'm producing a lot of content for you guys, it's hard for me to produce content. I have a tough time with this. So what I need to do every day is just write one sentence because I love to write. I love to create language in many different ways. I love to create poetry. I love to create stupid rap songs and send them to my friends. I like to create, nice letters, thoughtful ideas and send them to people. I like to create language. I love doing it. It's a superpower. It really is a superpower. And I don't use it enough, I feel, myself. So if you write one paragraph every day, just write one paragraph. And this could be a note to somebody. You could just pick 10 people and be like, I'm going to send you guys long messages. You don't have to write anything back. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I want to produce content. Because other than reading, writing is one of the most powerful things you can do for general intelligence. General intelligence turns the mind into a master key that opens every door, right? You turn into a problem-solving machine. People explain things that are hard to you, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look that hard. And it's because you can pull things from different places in your mind, and you can put them together in a right way. And that's wisdom. That's the beginning of wisdom. And you guys are going to take over the country. You guys are going to be the new leaders of this country. So you need to start cultivating your wisdom now. Reading and writing give you power. They really do. And everybody says you should meditate, Nang Samadhi, that's a good thing. And it really is. They're right about that. It does work. But if that's not your jam, if you just spend a lot of time reading and writing, or even you just spend a little time reading and writing, it will give you benefits for sure. And those benefits will be you just get smarter. Doesn't matter what you read, and it doesn't matter what you write. It really doesn't. If you write rap lyrics and you read graphic novels, you will get smarter. It's true. All right, so studying. Oh, here, let's go through this. You write one sentence. You write one sentence every day, right? That turns you into a writer. And you write one paragraph. That's a little bit harder, but still quite easy. Moderate. You write 1,000 words. You could totally write 1,000 words if you're working on something. It gets harder when you try to make these words relate to each other. That's why morning pages is just everything all over the place. Next, write a 5,000 word article, right? This would be something like a term paper. Like your whole class is summed up in this one article. And you're trying to explain many concepts working together with one thesis. Really difficult. Write a book. Man, that's hard. James Clear had to cut off all of his social media in order to do that. And he's a PhD psychologist. He went to an elite university. He's a high-level person, and it was still so hard for him that he had to cut off social media. Okay, study. Just open your notes. There's a Chinese proverb that says, begin, the rest is easy. Or there's another one that says, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with but a step, right? And all of these things are true. All of these things are true. Study for 10 minutes. Study for 3 hours. Get straight A's. Earn a PhD. right? All of these things are possible for you, and you can just get them with hard work. So he goes into this in his interviews. I'll talk about it now. There's a relationship between identity and what you do, right? So I'm going to go back to cognitive psychology. There's a concept that's called cognitive dissonance. And what cognitive dissonance is where you think something, but it's not true. You're always getting evidence of something not being true. And that would be like if you feel like you are a good person, but everybody around you is treating you really poorly. It creates dissonance. Means like two notes that are not in harmony. They don't sound right together. They don't work together, right? But they do work together sometimes, especially in jazz. But they don't harmonize. They don't work in harmony. If you are a doctor and you're always doing doctor stuff, then that's a lack of cognitive dissonance. One moment, please. So if you have an attitude about something where you want to be a musician, if you're practicing music every day and playing music with other people, and you move into that kind of a lifestyle where that's your hobby, like, of course you guys are engineers, but maybe you're also jamming with people often, and people say, "Oh, I didn't know you were a musician." Be like, "Yeah, I guess I am," because every time you're doing it, it would be hard to not call yourself a musician if you're doing it all the time. Or if you're into exercising all the time, "Oh, I didn't know you were into being a healthy person." Be like, "Yeah, I guess I am. I guess I do all these things all the time that are healthy. So I guess I am into trying to make this happen," right? Or like if you're a studious person, I guess I am reading a lot, that it's, you start to know who you are, because it's hard to be doing things all the time and then thinking that you're somebody else. So this is from a different chapter, but he has this idea of outcomes. These are the things that you want, and then you got these processes, right? And these are the things that you do, and in the center you have the identity. It's hard to change your identity. It's hard to decide that you're a healthy person. It's hard to do that. But if you are performing habits every day that a healthy person would do, it changes your identity. It changes who you get to be, because your processes, the things you're doing all the time, is like being a healthy person. And then the outcomes are perhaps, like your body starts to be more like the body that you want. You have more energy. You have more positive thoughts. You have more, you're in a better mood. Like a lot of good things happen when you start to do healthy stuff. And then what changes along with that is your identity, like who you are. And one of the things that he talks about is like being a smoker. Sometimes people quit. I used to smoke cigarettes. That's why I talk about it a lot, because I remember how powerful of a habit it was to be smoking, because I started to associate smoking with different stuff. Like I'd be practicing music, and then we'd be like stuck on something, and we'd be like, okay, let's take a smoke break, right? And when you take a smoke break, it's really wonderful ritual, because you go outside with your friends, you stop for 5 minutes, and you just do something that is pleasurable to you, and it has no purpose. There's no reason for it. You step outside, you have this fire, you light up the fire, you breathe in this thing that feels nice to you because you've made it feel nice to you, and then you breathe smoke out, and you just stop. We didn't have phones back then, right? So you're not doing any work You're not just sitting around staring. You have this little toy in your hand. Every time you pull on it, the little cherry will get bright and crackle. You know, it's like your own little fire, your own little dragon. And it's just wonderful to sit there and just take a break and let life stop for 5 minutes, and then you go back in. And I remember having jobs and stuff, and the smokers could be like, hey, I'm going to go outside for 5 minutes, you know, and the rest of us are working, but the smokers get 5 minutes to go smoke, you know, and everyone's supposed to just recognize that that's fine. Oh, yeah, you go do something that's pleasurable to yourself. And so the thing that I would try to do is go take those 5 minutes and be like, all right, yeah, I'm going to take a smoke break. I just want to go outside and just like stand outside for 5 minutes and just relax and just chill. And because, you know, that powerful thing of smoking, it's important, you know, it's important. But the problem is it really is very bad for you. And a lot of you guys are doing the vaping, and I'm worried about the vaping. I don't want to be like a test dummy for it. They don't know too much about it yet, so we don't know if it's good or bad. I'm sure that you can buy a, you know, 10,000 baht piece of equipment that was made by scientists, and they tested all the little capacitors in it, and it's a really high level thing. And then you buy this oil, and the oil was processed organically by, you know, people who are like really just passionate about producing a very high-end oil, and then you put this oil in this really nice piece of gear, and then you vape that oil, and it's being heated at the right temperature, and this vapor that's coming in is providing good things to you. I'm sure that's possible, but recognize it's also possible that the cheapest factory in this dirty, horrible place has cranked out this thing. It's made out of the cheapest metal, and the elements are sometimes hot, sometimes cold. They're burning this stuff at whatever temperature. It's creating byproducts. And then you put this oil in there, and the oil is made of the cheapest chemical they could find. So you just sucking in this cheap, crappy chemical that's made to make whatever company money. And then you're doing it with this piece of equipment that's, you know, the temperatures are not hitting it at the right level. So then the vapor you're sucking into your lungs is what chemical compounds? Who knows? And, you know, you're just rolling the dice. Who knows if it's going to be okay or not, right? So vape responsibly. Really, smoking is bad. Like, don't put bad stuff in your lungs without thinking real hard about it first. But I loved being a smoker. I thought it was amazing. But after a little while, you have to say, I'm not a smoker. Because when I quit, I don't know, 243 times, but I always came back, not because I was powerless, but because I wanted to. I loved smoking. There's some people who are smoking and they're like, no, I'm only doing this because I have to. And man, I wish I didn't have to do this. This gives me no happiness. I just want the drug that's inside of it. You know, I never felt that way. I was always like, this is awesome, right? But no more. It's not good for you. And, you know, it's just not good for you. So at some point you have to be like, no, I'm good. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a smoker. Identity, right? That's the change at the level of identity. I'm not a smoker. The process would be buying cigarettes, buying lighters, lighting up cigarettes out in places where you can be smoking, hopefully throwing them away in the garbage. Those are your processes when you're a smoker. Cleaning up that stinky smell, because even though it smells nice while it's happening, the aftermath of smoking is always stinky. Cars that have been smoked in, it's really hard to get that smell out. And those are the outcomes, you know, it's bad health outcomes, You can get it. But the difference between saying I am a smoker, but I'm trying to quit, versus saying, no, thanks, I'm not a smoker, right? And this is why it's easy for people who are like a vegetarian. If you say that you are a vegetarian, you've changed your identity. And you say, no, I don't eat meat because I'm a vegetarian. I am a thing. That's an identity change. And if you could do the same thing by deciding that you're an athlete, You can say, I'm an athlete. So I do physical stuff. If I don't do physical stuff, I get bummed out. That's one of the things I say. It's true. Like, if I don't do some physical stuff, then I get depressed, like, for sure. Like, if I don't do it for 3 days, I get real depressed. I start to think, man, life is meaningless. Life isn't meaningless. You just didn't do any push-ups for 3 days, and that's why you think life is meaningless. You need a 40-minute workout 2 days in a row, and then life isn't meaningless anymore. You know this, right? So if you decide that you're an athlete, then you're an athlete. If you decide that you're an artist, then you're an artist. But the way to do it would be to follow these processes. If you want to be an athlete, do athlete stuff. You want to be an artist, do artist stuff. The outcomes, whatever. This is what we normally want. These are goals. But anybody can write down a goal, right? I want to run a marathon. Right. But if you run a marathon, you just end up as injured as, what's his name? Body Slam singer. He went and ran a lot of marathons. I'm sure he got injured doing that. That was crazy, awesome thing that he did. But if you just want to run one marathon, if you think about it, you don't just want to run a marathon. You want to become a runner. You want to become the kind of person who runs. You want to become the kind of person who's training consistently and out there getting rained on and, fighting through it and stuff. That's who you want to be. You want to be in the process of running. So you want to change your identity. And it's the same thing with going to the gym. You want to create the outcomes of better health and go into the processes of working out and eating good. You get that done by changing your identity. So it's interesting. And one of his quotes is, every time that you do a good behavior like this, even one of these small ones, like put on your running shoes, write one sentence, open your notes, even these very easy behaviors, his famous quote is, this is a vote for the person that you want to be, right? You want to be a musician. If you practice music every day, if you do that for a couple months, you're practicing music every day, how are you going to call yourself not a musician? Of course you're a musician. You practice music every day. If you write one sentence, if you're writing every day, somebody says, oh, I didn't know you were a writer. Of course you're a writer. You write every day. That's what writers do. They write all the time, right? You want to be a writer? Write, right? Right. So you want to be a good student? Open your notes, study, right? You want to be a runner? Put on your running shoes. That's about it. So this idea of building habits step by step is really excellent. He has some good examples here. So say you want to become an early riser, and this is of course at the level of identity, right? Be home every night at 10 p.m. every night, right? That's phase one. And that should be easy. Just be like, no, I'm trying to get to bed earlier. So just get home earlier. So if you get home earlier, that's a nice step to going to bed earlier, but maybe you get home and you're playing video games, you're messing around and stuff. So move to phase two. You're home every night by 10 and you've turned off all your upakorn, right? And maybe you are just kind of pacing around the house, like, man, it's really hard to get to sleep still, but I'm not going to use tech after 10 o'clock. One of these guys has a timer on the Wi-Fi, because they're tech people, right? It has a timer on the Wi-Fi, and at 10 o'clock, the Wi-Fi for the house shuts off. And it's not like a rule that you have to follow. It's the technology makes the rule happen for you. So this is like, make it attractive, make it, his rules and stuff. It's the opposite of that. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it hard to do, and make it unsatisfying. If you have something that's going to cut your internet off at 10 o'clock, you could put these kinds of apps on your phone and say, like, none of these social media things are going to work after 10. Like, you can buy an app that'll do that for you. And it's worth it. It's really worth it, because then you're like, oh, no, but I just scroll one more time and look at one more picture of cute people or whatever you're doing. You can do this to yourself. Move on. You want to be in bed reading James Clear, Atomic Habits at 10 o'clock every night, or talking with your partner. I don't think a lot of you guys are living with somebody, but if you get into bed and you're in bed at 10 o'clock, maybe you're not able to go to sleep, but you're done. And then you move up to trying to have the lights off by 10. Now you're moving up to 8 hours of sleep every night, waking up at 6 a.m. every day. It's hard to do. Okay, becoming a vegan. So this is not becoming somebody who's on a particular diet. This is becoming like an ideological position. Because a vegan is a change at the level of identity. And it's the same with an early riser. I am an early riser. I have changed to be an early riser. I used to go to sleep when the sun came up, and I used to wake up around noon every day. That was just always my jam, because I was a musician. So being an early riser and being a musician, they don't work perfectly well together, but you can make them work together. So becoming a vegan. This is a change at the level of identity also. Starting eating vegetables at every meal. Stop eating animals with 4 legs, cow, pig, lamb, right? Just stick to 2 legs. Stop eating animals with 2 legs, chicken, turkey, etc. And now these levels shouldn't mean anything. There's not much of a difference between a cow, a pig, a lamb, chicken, turkey. Some people see it as this, but don't focus on that. All it is just bringing in new levels. It's not like this is better than that. Stop eating chicken and turkey and everything and just eat fish. And then stop eating animals with no legs. And this is just seafood. I went back the opposite way, and I just started to eat eggs and fish. And then I just snapped into, I'll eat any animal that was not tortured, because the factory farm industry in the United States is horrible, and the lives of these animals is just horrible. And I didn't want to be a part of that. So I was a vegan for about 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And then I climbed a mountain, and I ate all the way up the mountain. I ate all the way down the mountain. And when I got down, I ate bacon because I was starving. I had been hungry for 2 years, and I was like, this doesn't work for me. But it works for a lot of people. This really works for a lot of people. It'd be hard in Thailand, though, because they sneak meat into everything. Fish sauce, all that other stuff. All right. So, starting to exercise. You want to change into your workout clothes, step out the door, try taking a walk, right? But seriously, if you get the costume, you're halfway there. Step out the door, maybe take a walk. Phase 3, drive to the gym, exercise for 5 minutes, and leave, right? It's a good trick, and it has worked for people. It really has worked for people. I couldn't do it because I don't want to waste the money on the gym membership if I'm not going to do it. But you could say, I'm not here to work out. I'm just here to stand around. I'll get a membership in 2 weeks if I can pull this off. Phase 4, exercise for 15 minutes at least once a week. That's not bad, right? And then you move up to exercising 3 times per week, which is really good. Once you're up at 4, you're a professional if you're exercising 4 times a week. All right. So here's the chapter summary. These are really nice. These are at the end of every chapter. Habits can be completed in a few seconds, but they continue to impact your behavior for minutes or hours afterwards. And this is his idea of the pivotal choice, the moment in the day where if you do this one thing, it's going to make your whole day better. All right. Many habits occur at decisive moments. Choices are like a fork in the road. They either send you in one direction of a productive day or an unproductive one. The 2-minute rule states when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. It's not a bad idea. So basically you just figure out a way to put in a small amount of effort to make a big result. The more you ritualize the beginning of the process, the more likely it is to become, you can slip into a state of deep focus that is required to do great things, right? So if you make some kind of ritual out of it, like meditation or, this is why ritual meditation is like you start with like grop samti, right? You grop 3 times. That's to put the mind in the state of being ready to do something every day, right? The more you ritualize, standardize before you optimize. This is huge. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. I'm going to start learning how to make a business, and I'm going to do it by selling 1 t-shirt. My friend is an artist in the United States, and the United States is in so much trouble right now. But he's a musician and a bartender. and the bars are closed and live music is done. So like everything he does is gone. He just, like his life is really hard. And so I called him up and I was like, I have this idea for a shirt. Will you be my artist and I just pay you for the gig, And he's like, yeah, sure. And I'm glad that he said yes. I had another friend who tried to get him to do some work, like just to give him some work, and he wouldn't take it. So I'm glad he took it from me. But I want to learn how to sell one shirt, and if I can sell one shirt, I'm like, oh, cool, I'm doing business. That's a good way to get into it. And you could totally do that. You could just start a business that's like a tiny little business. I'm going to sell one thing. My wife has some deodorant. She wants to sell like one deodorant. I mean, she has several of them, but it's like one thing. But if you learn, like Thailand, it's really hard to make money if you're not doing a business, So it's a nice skill to learn. So we're going to learn it by doing like a tiny little business and then maybe work up to another one, then maybe work up to another one, right? But if you can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. So if you figure out how to run a small business, you start to learn how to run a larger business. If you have a workout program, but you're not doing all the lifting perfectly and you're not doing the push-ups perfectly, and some days you skip this and some days you skip this, but you do it all the time, that's good. Optimize means make it better. And if you have it, it's happening at the same time all the time. You're like, I work out at 4:00, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 4 days a week, I exercise at 4:00. That's something that happens, right? You just go to the gym, you do a bad job working out. Whatever, who cares? You just do a bad job of it, And then 3, 4, 5 weeks later, you start thinking, this is pretty easy. What if I add this to it? Or what if I change this a little bit? Or what if and then you can optimize, you can make it a little bit better, but then you already have the habit in place. So what you want to do first is don't be a perfectionist. First, just get those votes in place to turn into somebody new. I'm going to be the kind of person who exercises. I'm going to be an athlete. Well, how are you going to do that? I'm just going to do it by doing it, right? And if you need some more motivation, I'll give you Shia LaBeouf as well. Okay, I put Shia LaBeouf in the optional section. This concludes our breakdown of behavior change. The main jam of it is to try to optimize your area. The chapter 12 that we read for Sankom, that chapter is basically about a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel, and it talks about how Europeans were able to conquer the world because geography set them up to be able to do it. It's a really brilliant book, and it basically says the fact that Europe and Asia are east-west, that means it's easy to settle the same crops across. It's easy to travel across, and that was why you had so much success in Eurasia. In the Americas, everything goes straight up and down. So if you're traveling north and south, every time you travel a little bit, the weather changes so much and you have to learn many new things. So that made it difficult for culture to flourish. Also, the animals that the Europeans had were so easy to domesticate. Cows, pigs, chickens, all of these horses, all these animals were like really useful work animals. And since that made all of the normal stuff so easy for Europeans, it was easy for them to come up with science and steel and weapons and travel and giant militaristic societies that fought each other constantly and upped the technology. So when they went out to the rest of the world, they found that they were the most technologically advanced society. And that led them to believe a lot of crazy racial superiority nonsense. But Jared Diamond brought you back down to earth and said, no, it's just your environment has created good habits for you. A lot of people think like, in Thailand, when people say a good family, that usually means a rich family. And rich people are not necessarily good or talented or anything. It's just that if you have a ton of money, it's a lot easier to put yourself in a situation where you're going to flourish. And it's important when you're taking care of yourself to try to just think, I'm not special. I'm not special. I'm not strong. I'm just a human being. How can I put myself in an environment where I'm going to do the best things all the time? One of them is you join a group where the behavior you want to do is the normal behavior. You join a group of people who are already doing it, right? You can join a bunch of people and learn from them, or you can join a bunch of people who are beginners and go on the journey together, right? That's a really nice way to do it. But the point would be not to expect yourself to be strong every single day. Instead, expect yourself to be weak and expect the system to carry you forward. Like, you wouldn't be studying all this engineering stuff if you were not being forced to do it by the system, right? This system that's getting you your degree is making you do it. Otherwise, you'd wake up in the morning and do what? You'd probably eat, go get something to drink, mess around on the phone, maybe play some football, watch some movies, relax. You wouldn't be learning about engineering for sure. It's a hard, unnatural thing to do. So we do this all the time, where we're like Odysseus and we tie ourselves to the mast and say, you keep rowing, yams, keep rowing. All right. I'm going to also cover the last subchapter from chapter 12, and we will talk about all of this behavior change stuff in the live session. I look forward to that, and I wish you luck in changing your lives for the better. No, that's not what we want. This is what we want. All right. Peace.